$5,000, 2 used vending machines, Costco snacks. That's how Graham started, and within a few years, he was raking it in with his company pulling in over $340,000 a year across 25 machines in 4 different states. No storefront, no employees taking your order, just metal boxes that quietly print money 24 hours a day while you relax. Here's how a business this boring became this profitable, and why almost nobody does it right. So who is this guy? Graham wasn't a finance guy. He wasn't running spreadsheets for a hedge fund or doing market analysis. He had a regular job and, like a lot of people, he was looking for something on the side. Something that wouldn't eat into every evening and weekend. He'd heard the pitch before. Vending machines, passive income, set it and forget it. But most people who hear that pitch do nothing with it. Graham actually took action. He scraped together $5,000. Not exactly startup from a VC money, just savings, and bought 2 refurbished vending machines. Not new, refurbished. Because step 1 in this business isn't look impressive. It's don't go broke before you've proven anything. He stocked them with snacks and drinks bought from Costco. The same Costco that anyone watching this could walk into today, and place them in locations around Philadelphia. And then he waited to see what happened. What happened was, those 2 machines started bringing in around $1,500 a month combined in revenue. Not life-changing, but real. Real enough to prove the model worked. And that's the part most people skip. They want machine number 20 before they've proven machine number 1. Now, the turning point. Here's where it gets interesting. Because the difference between someone who owns 2 vending machines forever and someone who builds a $300,000 plus company comes down to a handful of decisions. Decision number 1. He treated location like it was the entire business, because it basically is. A vending machine in a bad spot is just an expensive piece of furniture. A vending machine in the right spot is an ATM that dispenses chips. Graham's approach was to evaluate locations almost like a real estate investor would. How many hours is this place open? How many people walk past this spot every day? Is there already competition? Another machine, a vending area, a cafeteria? The machine itself is basically identical everywhere. The thing that changes everything is foot traffic and hours of operation. A machine in a 24-hour facility with high turnover can outperform 3 machines in slow, low-traffic spots combined. Most people obsess over which machine to buy. The real winners obsess over where it goes. Decision number 2. He scaled by replicating a system, not by reinventing one. Once those first 2 machines proved the model, once Graham knew roughly what a good location could produce, he didn't pivot, he didn't start selling something different or chase a fancier vending concept. He found the next good location, then the next, then the next. 2 machines became 25. Philadelphia turned into 4 different states. The product mix barely changed. The buying process barely changed. What scaled was the number of times he repeated a system that already worked. This is the opposite of how most people scale a business, constantly tweaking, constantly improving, constantly starting over. Graham found a formula and then just did it, and did it again and again. Decision number 3. He turned operating costs into simple, repeatable formulas. By the time his business matured, Graham had his numbers locked down to the point where he could break down almost to the percentage point where every dollar of revenue went. Roughly a third towards restocking product, a chunk towards a small part-time team to help with the routes, a small slice for fuel, repairs, and various miscellaneous costs. And the rest, the largest single piece, was profit. When you know your numbers that precisely, growth stops being a guess. You're not hoping the next machine works out. You already know, almost to the dollar, what it'll produce, because you've got 24 data points proving the model. Now here's the business model breakdown. Let's get into the actual math, because quote-unquote vending machine business sounds like a punchline you hear on an Instagram reel until you see the unit economics. A typical single vending machine, run casually, might generate somewhere between $150 and $400 a month in gross revenue. After product costs, location fees, and maintenance, that nets out to be maybe $40 to $120 a month per machine. On its own, not very exciting. Nobody's quitting their job over $80 a month. But that's the wrong way to look at it, because this is a volume game, and the per machine cost to add doesn't scale linearly the way a restaurant's costs do. Now look at what happens at scale, using Graham's actual numbers. 25 machines, total revenue around $340,000 a year. That's an average of about $13,600 per machine per year, or roughly $1,130 a month per machine. That's well above the casual baseline, because these aren't random machines. They're machines placed using the location strategy from earlier. break down the costs. Roughly 30% goes to restocking product. Another 10% goes to a small part-time team, 5 part-timers in Graham's case, handling routes and restocking. Another 10% covers fuel, miscellaneous expenses, and repairs. That's 50% in total costs, which means 50%, half of every dollar, is take-home profit. On $340,000 in revenue, that's around $170,000 a year in profit. From a business with no storefront, no rent, no lease negotiations, no walk-in customer service. And here's the part that should really get your attention. Graham has said this business runs on roughly 4 hours of his time per week, not per day, per week. Compare that to almost any other business doing $170,000 in annual profit. A restaurant doing that kind of profit needs a building, staff, insurance, a menu, marketing, health inspections, and someone physically present 60 plus hours a week. This needs a route, a truck, and a restocking schedule. But Graham didn't stop at the machines because he ran into the same wall every operator eventually hits. There's only so much time in a day and only so many good locations in one city. So he did what smart operators do once they've proven a model. He packaged the knowledge. He built an online course teaching other people how to start their own vending machine business, the location strategy, the numbers, the systems. And he wrote an ebook based on it. That digital product alone has brought in $90,000 on top of the vending revenue. No additional machines required, no additional routes, just the same playbook sold to other people who want to run it themselves. In this case, the ebook may have been the wrong decision. If you have proven yourself an expert in the creation and operation of a niche business like this, people will pay to access your knowledge directly. I would just try to stick to an online course that people pay for and monthly consultations from the expert, and in this case, that income would probably dwarf the ebook sales. The machines were the business. The knowledge of how to run the machines became a second business, stacked on top of the first, with almost zero additional overhead. Okay, now let's get into the key lessons. So what do you actually take from a guy running vending machines part-time? The first lesson is that boring is a feature. A trend you'll notice with a lot of these businesses is that nobody dreams about them. Nobody dreams about vending machines. And that's exactly why there's so much room in it. The businesses everyone's excited about, the trendy app, the influencer brand, are crowded with smart, motivated people. The unglamorous businesses are often wide open, simply because most other people don't bother looking at them. Ask yourself, what's a boring business in your area that nobody's taking seriously and might be wide open because of it? Lesson 2, prove it small before you scale it at all. Just like the last case study, you don't want to go all in without knowing if it'll work. Entrepreneurship and starting businesses is an inherently risky activity, so it's good to balance any risk you can up front. Graham didn't start with 25 machines and a fleet of part-timers. He started with 2, and then he let those 2 machines tell him whether the model worked before he risked anything else. This is the same idea as the food truck story. Start small, get real data, then expand based on what actually happened, not what you hoped would happen. Lesson 3, once you've built a system, the system itself becomes a product. The vending machines made Graham money, but because of the knowledge of how to run vending machines well, the location strategy, the cost breakdown, the operating playbook, it became a separate revenue stream entirely, sold to other people trying to do what he did. If you built a system that genuinely works, that system has value to other people facing the same problem you've solved. That's often the highest leverage move available, turning your operating manual into a product. 2 vending machines, $5,000, 4 hours a week, over $300,000 a year. It's not flashy, it's not a story that gets told at parties, but it's real, it's repeatable, and almost nobody's doing it because nobody thinks it's worth doing. If you want more breakdowns like this, real numbers, real business models, no fluff, hit subscribe. Next time, we're looking at a business that turned a 19th century chore into a multi-million-dollar cash machine, and the math behind it might surprise you.